Chris, who do you want to ride?
I think I'd go with You Got To Me.
Really?
Just ahead of Emily Upjohn and then Queen of the Pride.
Okay, you'll be disappointed to know that I also am a You Got To Me fan. She won the Irish Oaks under a fine ride from Hector Crouch, to whom the owners have been extremely loyal. He repaid that loyalty by executing Plan B in the Irish Oaks, and it worked a treat. There's a suggestion that Content should have beaten her that day, and as such the market reflects that, having Content 11-4 and You Got To Me 9-2. Why do you not necessarily believe that the form will be reversed?
Because I think You Got To Me is improving with every time she gets to a racecourse, and I think with that in mind she can uphold the form. I can see the argument to an extent, because Content, a little bit like Lowther Stream actually, they both went a little bit too freely through the race, and then that probably took its toll. Lowther Stream didn't give her running as it went. Content pretty much did, didn't she? It was her first go up in trip. She's a Galileo, they tend to stay, and you can't argue that she didn't. She had been a little bit strong, and she has to wait for her run through. So I get the argument, but I suppose I like horses, particularly at this level, that are just winning races, and that's what You Got To Me is managing to do. She's 2 from 4 this season, and I think this was another step forward from anything that she had done before. So I get the Content argument, but I thought that You Got To Me was always holding her late on.
I like her. I just like her a lot as a horse. Lingfield, she shouldn't really have won, because she was so keen and setting herself hard against the bridle, and then after the line she half took off. Thought she did well to hang on for 4th in the Oaks, given that she was joined by about 3 of her stable companions for most of the race near the front.
And a good run at Ascot when she was strong enough as well.
She was loony up front and still didn't give in. Now they've got her settled, they've got the tongue tie on and got her to race kindly. I think she could really outmuscle them here.
Could definitely be more to come. I mean, she is, now that she's relaxing well enough, she's sort of a strong stayer at the trip, and I think that the fact that she was still finishing her races off, having been keener earlier on in the season, was sort of testament to that stamina that she has, because now she has been more economical in the way that she went through a race. It resulted in a strong to-line finish. And as I say, I thought she was always holding Content. As I say, I get the Content argument, but the query has to be whether or not, a little bit like You Got To Me was earlier on in the year, whether the same thing happens again. And there's no hiding place here over a mile and a half. Yes, it's a speed track, but you've got to stay.
Can I ask you about the Queen of the Pride form from Haydock, which also brings in Mistral Star and also brings in Sea Theme?
Yeah, I mean, again, she is getting better and she's well on top here. Her last 2 wins have been at Haydock, and she's steadily going up through the grades, isn't she? Group 3, Group 2, and now she's into a Group 1. And I think she goes through this race in the manner of a horse that was kind of always going to win it. I think it's very comfortable in which the manner that she goes through the race. She's following the right horse through in Tiffany, switches to the outside of that one and hits the line really well. I think there's an element of we don't know where the bottom of her lies, and there could be a good bit more to come. I think we've seen enough of Roaring Lions progeny to know that they can progress and they can improve with racing. Simple Verse, her dam, got to a very high level very early on in her career and never really built on that, did she? But Queen of the Pride is doing something different. She is improving each time she gets to the track, and you'd have to be giving her a chance. She seems a very professional type of horse. Ultimately, I think this is a very tight-knit race. I don't think there are masses amount between them. She's one that doesn't have a huge amount to find with the pick of them on form, and is probably getting better each time she runs, a little bit like You Got To Me.
And then, of course, there's the great Emily Upjohn conundrum, isn't there?
Yeah, and I think she's got the best of the form in the book, but she hasn't shown that on her most recent start. I think it's easy enough to forgive Goodwood the position that she ended up with. She had a wide draw, a tricky spot. It did not work out. The run before behind Blue Stocking is obviously a really good effort, and we know that Blue Stocking going on and doing what she's done with a good run in the King George is a fairly formidable filly in the fillies only division, and Emily Upjohn only found her too good at the Curragh. I think the step back up to a mile and a half is a positive for her. I still think her standout performances have been when she's been over a mile and a half, so getting back up to that sort of trip is, I think, to her advantage.
Okay, any others you want to chuck into the mix?
Positive mention for Lava Stream, whose good run at Royal Ascot wasn't followed up at the Curragh in the Irish Oaks, but I think the way that she went through the race at Ascot shows that she is a pretty classy filly. This is a deeper race than the Ribblesdale was, no doubt, but she's a fairly big prize. But yeah, as I say, tight-knit race. I'd put You Got To Me top of the list, particularly as the fourth in terms of the betting.
9-2, You Got To Me, with Sky Bet for the Pertemps Network Yorkshire Oaks. Let's take a look at the betting for the Lowther Stakes, which is the big race for 2-year-old fillies this week, sponsored by Sky Bet. 9 have been declared for this. It takes place at 1:50. Just taking a final check on the runners for the Pertemps Network Yorkshire Oaks, but we will have the Lowther betting up for you in a few moments' time. Liavani was a short price favourite when I looked this morning, Chris.
Yeah, and she's unbeaten in her 2 starts. She's 2-1. I'd have her a little bit shorter myself. I think she has got a high level of form. I think she's probably got the best form in the race as it stands. I think her win in the Queen Mary was a really strong bit of form. Both her wins, Nottingham and Ascot, have been over 5 furlongs, but she strikes me as a filly that will improve up to 6 furlongs for the first time, particularly on a fast track like this.
And she'll need to, because the Queen Mary form has taken a few knocks. By contrast, the Albany Stakes form looks very good, with Simmering winning in France, and we know just how good Fairy Godmother was on that occasion. Heaven's Gate carved out the running and held on really well for third.
Yeah, my feeling with Heaven's Gate is that the sharper test here than what she's had so far this season over 6 might just catch her out, and I think moving up from 5 to 6 is going to suit Liavani, whereas I think Heaven's Gate might be one that improves over a little bit further. She's got a good bit of stamina in her pedigree. I ultimately don't think she's quite as quick as Liavani, and I think on a track that tests pace, and may well be that we've got a tailwind, I think that could be a little bit of an issue.
Yeah, she galloped hard up the hill at Naas in a race, in fairness, in which she was entitled to win decisively.
Yeah, but yeah, I think you look at all of her form this season, and she has been strong through the line on stiffer tracks than she's racing on here. Now, it might not be a problem. She's got the right style of racing for the track, but I just think Liavani is fundamentally a slightly faster horse, and that might be the thing that tips the balance in her favour here.
With that in mind, can I put in a good word for Celandine, who won quite a strong-looking running of the Emperor Stakes? Now, she's just fallen a bit short since, but I thought a fast 6 was just about spot on for her. That's what she got at Newmarket, and that's what she gets for the first time since.
Yeah, exactly, and she was in against Colts in the Molecombe last time out over a very fast 5, and she certainly wasn't disgraced. Obviously, the winner of that, Big Mojo, will line up in the Gimcrack this week. The horse who finished in 3rd has got an entry in the listed race as well, the Julia Graves listed race. So
the Roses.
The Roses, that's the one. So I think that's a good bit of form, and it's outside of fillies only races, and it's worth pointing out that going and showing it outside of fillies only races, even with allowance, I think is quite significant. You can just see physically when you see the fillies turn up against the Colts, particularly as 2-year-olds, you sort of see that physical difference in them, and coming back to a fillies only race will be a help for her. And you're right, she looked impressive when she won the Empress, and it's not like she's done a massive amount wrong in her 2 starts since.
Okay, so the 2 big fillies and mares races on Thursday. You Got To Me to win the Pertemps Network Yorkshire Oaks, and you like Liavani to justify favouritism in the Sky Bet Lowther Stakes.
Yeah, I'll go for her to beat Celandine.
And let's have a look at the Galtres to round off Ladies' Day. See Just In Time for William Haggis and Tom Marquand, 13-8. Carmology, 7-1. 8-1 Scenic. Ferry Glen, 8-1. Satin, 9-1. Davina Grace, 10 with Nakil. Noisy Jazz, quite a good word for that one. Once raced for James Owen, who's won today. Earlier today, Sylvester de Souza, 10-1. Esmeralda, 18. Climate Friendly, 20. And Dora Milaje is the outsider, 25-1.
Yeah, See Just In Time is a short price on what she's achieved, really. This was her 2nd win. She went up in class after her debut win at Newmarket to Newmarket, and she finished behind Lava Stream, just found a step up in grade, perhaps a little bit too much too soon. And then she carried the penalty to success here at Kempton. Form untested to this point, time nothing special, but a very easy win from a filly that comes from a top stable. and has a top-class pedigree,
and
that's what you...
stable that are seriously rolling now
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely flying, and I think you're kind of hanging your hat on that, aren't you, as much as anything else, that she's just a very well-bred horse in a top stable that is... Her one defeat came second time out in a listed race where they were probably looking at fast-tracking her into higher level races and just seeing if she was ready for it. She wasn't. I think she displays an extremely likeable attitude here. I think she's got a willing head carriage and way of going, and I think that she probably is going to improve again, but at the level that one or two of the others are shown, she's going to need to improve. I'd anticipate that she would.
Well, given what you're saying, there must be a bet here, because it's 13-8 and God knows how much bar the one. Yeah, 7-1 bar one.
Yeah, I think Jesse Harrington's horse, what price is Satin? Satin at 9-1 has been sort of progressing through handicaps and then come up a little bit short. Could be of interest. I'd be intrigued to see what the headgear does to climate friendly. Cheek pieces have been tried before, and they seem to do something for her. A visor now goes on. They're running on figures to higher levels, but given time, I think See Just in Time probably will. So it wasn't a betting race for me as it stands, because I kind of expect the favourite to progress, but I wouldn't want to back her at the price to do it. I think it's one of those races I'll just sit out and watch.
Okay. So Chris will be sitting out and watching the Galtres, but he likes Liavani in the Lowther Stakes, and You Got To Me in the Yorkshire Oaks. That's Chris's keen eye on the fillies on Thursday.
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.